Good evening and welcome to the first official meeting of the Xenia City Council for the year 2020 and the decade, the first meeting of our decade. At this time, we'll have Brother Charles Huff stand and provide us with opening prayer, and I'll lead the Pledge of Allegiance as soon as we conclude that. Thank you.
Welcome. As we pray, dear Father in heaven, here we are again to praise your name together,
Yes.
to speak out to you. We know you are watching us. You love us. We ask for forgiveness. I stand here to pray for the council meeting and thank you for them as they take care of our city and do what's necessary. I pray for the firefighters. I pray for the policemen. I pray for the troops. Lord, we're in a mess, but you're going to fix it. The joy of the Lord is our strength. And Father, we come to you tonight, joined together in love and fellowship and unity, to pray to you, to pray for our city, the city of hospitality. Thank you, Father, for each and every one of the council meetings, members, friends of mine, children of yours. Thank you, Father, for this day as we come together. Lord, let us come together in unity. You love us, and we love you. And then second greatest commandment is we love one another, Lord. Thank you. We come together. Thank you again for the council members, each and every one of them, and bless them and bless the people that's here today. And we ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Place the flag, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Duke, would you please call the roll?
Councilman Smith,
Here.
Councilman Scrivens,
Here.
Councilwoman Dean,
Here.
Councilman Branham,
Here.
Councilman Dean,
Here.
Mayor Mays,
Here.
Vice President Wallace.
Here. At this time, we will turn the meeting over to the law director, who will come forward and do the swearing-ins. After the swearing-in, we will take a break immediately so that family members and members of the public who choose to can get pictures with the newly elected members of council. And when we resume for the election of the leadership of council, the mayor will take the leadership chair and we'll proceed from there. After the election of council leadership, we will then do some switching of seats as according to the results of the election. Okay? Madam Law Director.
I don't know if you're doing them, are you doing them together or you're doing them one?
One at a time. They were elected one at a time, one at a time.
Whoever would like to come first.
You're first up. That's what it says on the list.
Why you first, I guess.
You're first on the list. All right, I'll do it.
Okay.
Oh, okay, I guess Rebecca's
Okay.
going up.
You will raise your right hand. Please repeat after me. I, Rebecca Dean, solemnly swear or affirm that as a member of the City Council of the City of Xenia, Ohio, that I will support the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of the State of Ohio, and the Charter and ordinances of the City of Xenia. That I will not be influenced by any consideration except that of merit and fitness in the appointment or discharge
or discharge
of employees, that I will not make
that I will not make
or authorize
or authorize
the expenditure of public money
the expenditure of public money
otherwise
otherwise
than for adequate consideration
for adequate consideration
and efficient service
and efficient service
to the city,
to the city,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
in all other respects,
in all other respects,
discharge the duties of my office.
discharge the duties of my office.
Congratulations. I state your name.
Cody Brown,
Solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear or affirm
that as a member
that as a member
of the City Council
of the City Council
of the City of Xenia, Ohio,
of the City of Xenia, Ohio,
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances
and the Charter of Ordinances
of the City of Xenia,
of the City of Xenia,
that I will not be influenced
that I will not be influenced
by any consideration
by any consideration
except that
except that
of merit and fitness
of merit and fitness
in the appointment
in the appointment
or discharge
or discharge
of employees,
of employees,
that I will not make
that I will not make
or authorize
or authorize
the expenditure of public money
the expenditure of public money
otherwise
otherwise
than for adequate consideration
than for adequate consideration
and efficient service
and efficient service
to the city,
to the city,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
in all other respects,
in all other respects,
discharge
discharge
the duties of my office.
the duties of my office.
Congratulations. You will raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Thomas L. Scrivens,
Solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly swear
that as a member
that as a member
of the City Council
of the City Council
of the City of Xenia, Ohio,
of the City of Xenia, Ohio,
I will support
I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter and ordinances
and the Charter and the ordinances
of the City of Xenia,
of the City of Xenia.
that I will not be
I will not be
influenced
influenced
by any consideration
by any consideration
except that of merit and fitness
except that of merit and fitness
in the appointment
in the appointment
or discharge
or discharge
of employees,
of employees,
that I will not make
that I will not make
or authorize
or authorize
the expenditure
the expenditure
of public monies
of public monies
otherwise
otherwise
than for adequate consideration
for adequate consideration
and efficient service
and efficient service
to the city,
to the city,
and that I will
and that I will
faithfully,
faithfully,
in all other respects,
in all other respects,
discharge the duties of my office.
discharge the duties of my office.
Congratulations, Councilman. Now you got this one memorized.
No, ma'am, I do not.
I get there. You raise your right hand, please repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Edgar A. Wallace,
Solemnly swear or affirm
solemnly affirm
that as a member
that as a member
of the City Council,
of the Xenia City Council,
I will support
I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
the Constitution of the State of Ohio,
and the Charter
and the Charter
and ordinances
and ordinances
of the City of Xenia,
of the City of Xenia,
that I will not be influenced
that I will not be influenced
by any consideration
by any consideration
except that
except that
of merit and fitness
of merit and fitness
in the appointment
in the appointment
or discharge
or discharge
of employees,
of employees,
that I will not make
that I will not make
or authorize
or authorize
the expenditure of public money
the expenditure of public monies
otherwise
otherwise
than for adequate consideration
than for adequate consideration
and efficient service
and efficient service
to the city,
to the city,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
in all other respects,
in all other respects,
discharge the duties of my office.
discharge the duties of my office.
Congratulations.
Thank you. At this time, we'll consider ourselves in recess until such time as you've finished taking pictures, and then the mayor will call us back to order. Pictures.
Do it. We all took family pictures. You want to do a group one? Where do you want us? Do you want us out there? Okay. She wants to do a council picture.
Me to sign over everything I own? No.
Thank you, sir.
hi. Call me. I'd love to. We'll giggle. Maybe I'll bring the bunco dice. Just you and I will sit there and just keep rolling dice. I would laugh my full head off. I would mostly just keep yelling at you. Roll that two! Forget how much I enjoy your sister Sarah. I miss her. She's just okay. I'm enjoying your other sister too. Come on, give up one. Come on. That was funny. Nice job, Michael. All right.
Hey, Bill Dean, where's my flowers? He's already gone.
I already said, Levi, I don't remember you getting flowers when you got elected.
I didn't get anything.
It's harsh. It's a harsh world, man. That was awesome. Hey, Will. Will, you want to close the doors for us? Look at that.
How about that?
Congratulations. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
We good? Okay, good, good. All right, then let's proceed. At this time, we're going to do the reorganization to elect a council president and vice president. And we will begin with nominations for the position of president for the 2020 term. Are there any nominations for the position of president for the 2020 term? Yes?
Madam Mayor, I'd like to nominate the senior member of the Xenia City Council, Wesley Smith, and appreciate him for his service and
Okay, thank you. So there's a motion for Councilman Smith. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. At this time, I'm going to ask if there are any other nominations for the position of president. Seeing none, I believe we will go ahead and do roll call for the position of president. We have the first for Smith by Dr. Wallace and a second by Councilman Scrivens. Roll call, please.
Councilman Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
Vice President Wallace?
Thank you.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Congratulations. Thank you.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
President, would you like to move?
We can wait till.
All right, at this time, we will begin with the nominations for the position of Vice President for the 2020 term. Is there anyone who would like to make a nomination?
Yes, Madam Mayor, thank you. I'd like to nominate former Vice President Edgar Wallace for the position of Vice President this year.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Scrivens. Are there any other nominations at this time for the position of Vice President? Seeing none, could we go ahead and call the roll, please?
President Smith?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Okay, congratulations to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right, so
Thank you.
switch.
Appreciate it.
Cheers.
I'll turn it back over to you, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Sorry, Michelle. Michelle, are you ready? Okay, great. Thank you very much. All right, first on our agenda for tonight is the approval of minutes from our December 30th, 2019 regular session. I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes as written.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Mayor Mays, a second by Vice President Wallace. Any additions, corrections, or comments to the minutes?
And I would just suggest to the new council members is if you were not on council at this meeting, you do, and you may want to abstain from the vote on the minute.
Thank you very much from the law director. A recommendation for, to abstain if you were not at the meeting. Seeing no corrections or additions at this time, I'll ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens,
Abstain.
Councilwoman Dean,
Abstain.
Councilman Branham,
Abstained.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is a special presentation. Tonight's presentation is by Will Urschel, our Board Vice President of Bridges of Hope. And we'll be talking about the daytime programming, Phase 1. So at this time, I'll turn the floor over to Will Urschel. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, council, Madam Mayor, city staff. It's great to be here in a sweater instead of in a suit, let me tell you. It's a good thing. So, before we get into proposal that Bridges has for the city, I'd just like to go over a little bit about the situation of loitering and camping and homelessness in Xenia and how we got there and some results or consequences of that within our city, and then some proposals that those of us from Bridges have back for the city at that point. And I handed out to you, you should have in front of you, just a bullet point paper there. Madam Law Director, I didn't give one to you, or Ryan, I apologize. Just with the bullet points on that, and then the proposals on the second page from Bridges. So first off, this is my just personal observation here, is that we have had a significant increase in adult vagrant loitering and camping within the city limits, and some of that is within public property, some is in private, and also within the business area, especially here in the city, in the downtown area. And we've also seen, I believe this last year, in response to that, a significant increase from both the business community and the private community in terms of complaints about this. And just my own personal observations from social media and other places is that this now is as hot an issue, or maybe even more so, than the streets here in the city in terms of concern of folks within our city. In parallel to this, we've also seen a significant engagement within our policing community with those who are loitering in the downtown area and in public and private places, as well as the camping. And that comes to a fairly significant cost to the city. And as we had some discussions with our police chief and some of the detectives, their estimate right now is that about 10 to 15% of our street policing time is consumed with engagement with those who are camping or loitering within our city. And if you do those numbers, that's in the tens of thousands of dollars a month of lost opportunity time with our police force. And I would contend that that's also placing a stress within our police force, because that consumes time for them to be able to recover from the last call, prepare for the next call, and actually be doing things that we would rather they would be doing other than just engaging with those that are loitering within our community. There's also some additional cost to our first responders to deal with situations in addition to our police force, and then also to the municipal workers too, as they have to go and clean out vagrant camps, and that is happening on a fairly regular basis now as well. And just one other observation I have is that I do not believe, once again, personal observation or on this, is that we have a good viable strategy, and I'm going to choose these words carefully, in place. There's been discussions of strategies, but there is no strategy in place to ensure that this doesn't continue into this next year or even into this next decade. And that without that, it's very difficult for us to move forward on a lot of the activities and initiatives that we have in the city as well without dealing with this. I'd just like to give you some observations about how I believe we got in this situation. It used to be in the city and in the county that those who were experiencing homelessness had two shelters, year-round county shelters, full-day shelters that addressed those issues. The first one was with Interfaith Hospitality Network, and the second one was with the American Red Cross. Interfaith was a traveling shelter that basically resided within a church a week, and they would go into a specific church, and the church would open up their classrooms or the worship center, and folks would stay there overnight from 7 in the evening till 7 in the morning, have dinners, and then during the daytime, Interfaith then would provide transportation from that church to a centralized location where they had programming for the folks during the daytime. What happened during that time was that not only were there families that were part of this network, but a lot of single adults as well too. And there was never really any cap to the numbers that could participate, because most of the churches that were selected were some of the larger churches in the county, and they could always open up another classroom if that was needed for a sleeping area within the church. The YMCA also provided the ability for the folks to go early in the morning before the Y had opened up to go get a shower and change of clothes at that point as well too. In addition to that, the American Red Cross shelter here in town had a limited number of apartments, but they also hosted single adults as well as families. And many times they would have 2 single adults to an apartment if that was needed versus a family. I'd say that there was 2 very significant changes that occurred that have moved single adults out of both of those shelter programs. First is that IHN moved from a traveling program, and once again, those churches weren't just in Xenia, they were all over the county where they travel around. And so there was a sense that we need a little more stability for the families, especially the children that were part of those families, and instead of moving every week, it would be much better to have a single location. So over the years, the folks at IHN got the Schneider House, which is an old hotel here in Xenia, refurbished it, moved in, which was a great thing. However, when that happened, though, that put a cap on the number of people that could participate in that shelter. So there's just a fixed number of apartments with that. And they're also, the other thing that happened is after the 2008 recession, and we're still seeing it today, a significant increase in the number of families that desperately needed shelter access. And so what's happened over the last 5 to 7 years is that both of the shelters, the Red Cross shelter, which is now under Community Action Partnership, and IHN, are now have had to make a decision that they're only available to families. And even at this point, there's still a waiting list for some families to be able to move into those shelters. But they no longer, per policy, per their own board policies, will accept single adults. So part of what that did was that moved all the single adults out of the 2 active shelters within the county. In the wintertime, the folks we had, in response to that, over at the Episcopal Church here in town, had set up just within their sanctuary an overnight shelter, drop-in shelter for adults that was only open when the temperatures were below freezing. And so that was on a day-to-day basis, depending upon what the temperature was over the wintertime. But when the other 2 shelters went into just a single, just a family mode versus a single adult, that brought a huge influx of additional adults into that shelter. That church was a fairly small community of older folks, and eventually they said, we cannot sustain this shelter and the quantity of folks that are in here, and eventually they closed down at that point. So that then led to the genesis of Bridges of Hope and the opening of that shelter. But Bridges initially just stepped up basically to replace what was going on at the Episcopal drop-in shelter, and start off just in the winter months doing that, and it is extended through the year, but it does not provide any daytime programming for any of the adults. So unlike the old IHN programming, the old Red Cross program, shelter, when the adults were there, there was daytime programming there that kept them off of the streets and had some good things for them to do to address some of their root issues for homelessness. That's not available right now for adults in our community. In addition to that, there are currently no viable consequences to behavior of someone who says, I don't want to participate from a single adult perspective. If they choose not to participate in Bridges of Hope or participate in the rules and the expectations there of that shelter. And once again, I would say there are no expectations from a religious perspective, even though that is a faith-based shelter. But there are expectations that you're not going to have violent behavior within the shelter. You will not bring weapons or drugs within that. You will be entering at a certain time. You'll stay the entire evening, and you won't leave until the next day. And so folks that choose not to say, I don't want to abide by those rules, they right now can literally without too much consequence just camp out in our city at almost any location or loiter at any spot as well too. So there are not many incentives other than their own personal incentive to participate in that program. So those, once again, personal observations just in terms of how we got to the situation and where we're operating at right now. If you flip your sheet over, those of us at Bridges have some proposed way aheads to address some of this. And the first of that is that we believe that we need to have a 24-hour shelter access to adults within our county. And I say within our county. I would also say that there's a little bit of urban myth and legend out there that there's a lot of folks coming from other counties to Greene County because we have the shelters here. We have seen some folks who come from Clark or from Montgomery County here. But I would say the interesting thing is the majority of those are actually families. And the reason for that is there is no residential funding for families available in Clark or Montgomery County within 2 years. And our Greene Metropolitan Housing Authority has vouchers and those types of things much more available from that. So the interesting thing is we've seen much more of an influx of families, which once again has put a pressure on the family shelters and has said that we're just not going to have, there's no opportunity for them to take care of adults. But all the shelters in the county now have a standardized, and as a matter of fact, any of the housing folks, if you're not a resident of Greene County, they will not engage with you. So you cannot enter into any of the family shelters if you are not a resident of Greene County. You can't get any housing assistance from Greene Met if you're not a resident of the county. And currently Bridges will only house you one night. That'll be the night you initially come in if you cannot show proof that you're a Greene County resident or have lived in Greene County for a certain period of time. So I don't necessarily agree that we have a massive influx of folks from the outside. However, we do have a certain quantity of folks that are here, and some that are participating in the shelter program, some who are not. But Bridges, those of us on the Bridges board believe that if we had a 24-hour access to it and had some programming that we could do during the day to address some of the core problems of the folks who are homeless, besides just providing them dinner, sleep, shower, breakfast, and put them back out, we'd have a much better chance of addressing some of the core issues in their lives and helping folks get back into normal society. We would like to see this occur in 4 phases. The first phase is that first off, we'd like to extend the shelter hours to 8:30 in the morning departure versus 7 a.m. Principal reason for that right now is since the shelter is located near one of the Xenia community schools, we tend to put a lot of the folks out from the shelter out to walk downtown. At the same time, a lot of kids are walking to school. And we don't think that's a healthy thing to have going on. And they're also going by a lot of the bus stops as well too. And we've had a lot of complaints from parents just saying, we don't think this is a wise thing to have happening. We agree with them. So having the shelter open every day till 8:30 allows us to bypass that and let the kids get into school before we open the shelter up. Second part of that is we would like to start some daytime programming in the mornings, 3 days a week, for some classes, and we've already had some discussions with folks from the coach and TCN to come and do some counseling and daytime programming. Right now, we only have access to the main room because that's all we have the permit access for at this point. But we could initiate that. We also have a work program at the shelter, and folks could work inside the shelter or outside during that time period if we had the staffing there to supervise them for that. And that would give us the initial, we could initiate that next week. We have the staff that could extend their hours and and the space available, that if we had the funding for that, that could start literally next week if we could get a green light on that. Next, we'd like to extend the shelter hours not only to the mornings, but into the afternoons, and do that 5 days a week. So have classes in the morning and the afternoons, as well as the opportunity for folks to work within the shelter, and we have things we call shelter bucks, where they can earn tokens for bus rides, they can earn personal hygiene items and things like that to do that. So some incentive to actually do some work there at the shelter. And then we've also had discussions with folks that we believe are ready to step in and provide some classes that would be very, very good for folks during that time, from Job and Family Services and some other folks too. The last, phase 3 would then be extend those classes and work programs into the weekend. And then the final part of that would then to make that not only going up through the afternoon, but through the evening as well too. So we'd have a 24-hour program. Second is that we believe in tandem to this, the shelter has no ability to incentivize someone to come to the shelter. I mean, folks can come and they can make a decision they don't want to be there. And I'll just tell you, I'm working with one young man who's been sleeping every night at the post office. And his position is, I'd rather sleep at the post office and live by my own rules than have to go to the shelter and live by somebody else's rules. And I'm just telling you, he's been moved out of the post office 10 times, and guess what? Just goes back the next night to the post office, right? And he's there again. And so I could if you talk to our Xenia police or a lot of other folks, there's anywhere in the order of 10 to 20 folks who are living like this within our city. So I believe that, and those of us in the shelter, and we talked about this here with the council as well, that we need to have an anti-loitering, anti-camping ordinance passed here within the city, so that we can give some incentive to folks to say, you need to get off of the streets and not just be living by your own rules and your own behavior. And if you need a place to stay, we have a viable place here in the city for you to stay at that point, or there needs to be some consequences to be faced at that point. I know the law director's been doing some investigations in that, and I've done what little I can do as well too. I would mention that there's been a recent Supreme Court ruling on this, and found that one of our major municipalities here in the United States, they struck down their anti-loitering, anti-camping ordinance, principally because two reasons. One was there was not ready access on many of the evenings. They had a limited capacity in the shelters, and so folks couldn't be saying you can't camp out if there isn't actually someplace viable for you to go. And the second is that some of the shelters, or the shelters that they had, required some religious education, and that they could not stay at the shelter unless they participated in that. My sense is within the space that we have at Bridges, we would not have an issue with either one of those. We've been able to expand at this point. We're really only using about half the capacity of the overnight part right now that we have, and we've got the capacity once we get the permit with the sprinkling system. We've got plenty of capacity to expand to where we should never have to turn anyone away from the shelter if they wanted to come. And secondly, there are no religious instruction requirements. We offer those, but people can choose to participate or not within that, and there's no requirement to stay in the shelter from a religious education perspective. So the two litmus tests that the Supreme Court used to strike down that ordinance, I believe that if we had a 24-hour shelter, it would help us be able to get some viable anti-camping, anti-loitering ordinances. And then my third point is that many of the, I won't say many, but there are a select number of folks that have some severe mental illness issues that are walking our streets. And they really are not viable candidates to stay at the shelter. They're also not viable candidates to live independently either. And if you go to Housing First, which is our housing organization for folks that are receiving mental health counseling, they'll tell you that their only option at this point is to place people in independent living, and that for the most part, many of their folks are back out on the street within 6 months. And that's just because they cannot operate independently in an apartment by themselves. They just don't have the capacity to do that. Currently we have 3 assisted living facilities for folks that have mental illness challenges within the county. They're operated underneath TCN. They were originally set up as transitional housing. However, what the reality is, the folks that are in there aren't transitioning anyway. They have to live in a group environment. So they're doing very well. There's one in Xenia, one in Yellow Springs, and one in Fairborn, but they only have 36 beds. So I believe we also need to to work with TCN and the county to say, instead of expanding my own personal opinion is we look to expand our county jail from 150 beds to 500 beds. I prefer that we expanded that from 150 beds to 400 beds, and we got 100 beds for group homes for folks that have mental illness, because I think it's a much better place for them to be versus in the county jail system. But there's a number of things for us to explore within that. You notice I've highlighted in highlighted ink on that the phase one and the anti-loitering. Those are the two places I believe the city can engage with us with Bridges. Once again, Bridges has no power to work the ordinances within the city. That's the city council's purview, and so I'd encourage the city to consider that. However, the reality is that has to be rolled out in tandem with a 24-hour location for folks to be able to go. And I would like, so that goes into the proposal that Bridges has for the city. We just passed a budget for this year for $250,000. I just want to let you know that that is all privately funded by churches and individuals within the county. None of that is public funds, municipal, county, state, federal funds at this point. But that's an increase of about $100,000 over last year. And that is to provide us year-round access from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I don't believe that we have the ability to also extend some of the daytime access. That's going to be a challenge for us. And we believe we're going to be able to do it, but that's really the step of the Bridges fundraising from that perspective. We would like to see if the municipality would be willing to step into this phase one and help us fund the keeping the shelter open until 8:30 so we can stay past the school time, and then get the initial set of the daytime programming up and running. And once again, I said that can get started right away. The phase 2, 3, and 4 will have to wait until we can get the full access to the building. Right now, the county is doing the sprinkler modification of the facility, and we anticipate that'll probably be done in the March, April timeframe. And so we probably can get into this next phase if we have the funding in the May, June, July timeframe at that point. And we would also like to see if we could pursue the other municipalities, the county commissioners, and then we're also starting some initiatives with the USDA to look at their funding source versus HUD, and there may be some opportunities for grants for them as well to do that. But we believe it would behoove the city to step up to this initial part of that funding, so that as we go into the other municipalities and into the USDA program, we could show that the city is with us within the context of stepping forward. We don't think that the city should fund much more than that. We think there's since we're a county-wide shelter, we believe that the other municipalities need to get some skin in the game on this as well and carry some of this burden. And so once again, this letter that is from Marlene came to us is that roughly we're looking for about $2,200 a month to fund this initial phase of that. And so part of the reason I'm here tonight is that's not currently in the proposed budget for this year, and that will be coming forward here to you probably at your next council meeting. There may be opportunity for two different ways to do this. One is either have a direct funding of this, or to fund your community fund that's I guess has laid dormant for a while, and Bridges could come forward as could any other organization and put a bid in for that. But I believe ours would be a fairly potent bid to be able to come forward to those funds. So however, if you would like to move forward on that, I think that's another way to look for the funding on that. Once again, I don't know that this necessarily has to be an ongoing funding issue. I'd really like to see if we could move this up to the county level, because this really is a county-wide shelter here, and either that or look for funding through the USDA from the federal government. But I really believe from a community perspective, since we now have the ability to step out on opening this up from the 8:30 and especially taking care of the school kids and getting our foot in the water to understand the daytime programming, I would just request that if you folks would consider that and moving forward and helping us get started down this path. So that's the presentation at this point. I'd entertain any questions anyone has at this point.
Thank you very much. I have one question real quickly. The determination of 8:30 in the morning, is that sufficient? Because our elementary schools are actually starting at 9. I didn't know if that 30-minute timeframe.
Yeah, so we did the initial engagement with the schools, and that was the feedback they gave to us. I think we could go to 9 if they felt like we needed to have that. They felt like that was the time when the majority of students would be past that, or they had already been picked up at the bus stops where we'd be walking by.
Got it. Okay, thank
Right.
you very much. And I would truly think that the majority of everyone here agrees with our problem with homelessness. And I certainly appreciate the mission of Bridges of Hope and what you have been able to accomplish so far at this time. I do know that this is a brand-new council.
Right.
And this is a lot of information for
Yes.
them to digest at
Yeah.
first without being familiar with the budget. Of course, there is an urgent need there. But I would ask at this point if you could continue this request to the county level. And I agree in your assessment that we're building a proposed new jail.
Right.
500 beds. How many do you want those to be transitional or to help the people that
Right.
really aren't needing to be in jail but are finding that crack to slide under the radar, nowhere to go, we're not enforcing the loitering type of issue. But I'll open this up if anyone has any questions for Mr. Urschel at this time. And we can certainly consider, if not tonight, at a later date, the 2215 that would be
26,
requested.
I have one question. With those who choose not to participate in the rules, I know that there are some that I've interacted with personally, the shelter is no longer an option for them. Is there a way for somebody to earn that privilege back?
Yes.
Because
Yeah, so.
that's been my personal interaction of, have you
There's
considered the
also-
shelter and it's, I'm not welcome there
Yeah,
anymore?
there's also a lot of urban discussion on the street where people will tell you that, oh, I've been banned from the shelter.
Yes, I've been told
And the
that.
reality is, for the majority, usually what happens is people will be turned out for an evening.
Okay.
And a lot of times we'll have folks will show up, stay for dinner, and then decide, okay, well, I want to leave. And we'll say, okay, well, you can leave, but you just don't get to come back tomorrow night. And so you'll be banned for a night. There've been folks that may have had an infraction, arguing with someone, fighting with someone, and we'll tell them, okay, you have to step out for 3 days. Also, folks that stay at the shelter for 90 days, they've been requested to not come back to the shelter for 30 days. And part of that reason is we don't want folks to see this as a permanent living situation within the shelter. So we do have a list of folks that are permanent. There's only on that list right now, there's only 10 names right now. And those folks have principally been there for violent threats to folks either in the shelter or to the shelter staff. And there was a sense that just the safety of the community in the shelter, we could not allow those folks to stay there. So I'll guarantee you're going to run into a lot more than 10 people that told you that they've been permanently banned, right? And a lot of times folks are doing that because they would rather you be empathetic and put them up at the Xenia Country Inn or give them some money or food or that kind of stuff because those terrible folks at the shelter don't care about it.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying.
Mr. President, how much of this proposal have you shared with the city manager and our staff?
Yeah, so just, I think just briefly with Brent and with, a little bit with his staff on this, and, you know, that this was a possibility here, right? Yeah, but part of my constraint with doing that before was being on council, I really couldn't address this due to the conflict of interest up to that point.
Mr. President, if I may.
Yes, sir.
Just a couple of points, I think, to update council. So as the returning council members, may be aware, we began taking a more aggressive approach as a staff looking at this issue last fall. And so just an update on a few of those things. We have had several conversations with leadership from Bridges of Hope, and we do find some opportunities to work closely with their staff. Some of what they proposed are direct responses to some of the concerns that our staff has raised, and so I personally am very excited to see them taking some of these ideas forward and looking at implementation steps. And so there was some very preliminary discussion about the possibility of the city providing some funding. I would offer that given that our final budget is coming back to council likely your next regular session, you're probably not prepared this evening necessarily to respond to that request. But I do have at least one idea that I'd like to look at a little bit more, if you're interested in providing some funding, a way that I think would be an effective, effective opportunity to address that and provide some funding. We have also wanted to look at this, as Mr. Urschel pointed out, as a county issue and not just a local issue.
Right.
In that vein, and I absolutely echo Will's assertions that the county elected leadership needs to take a more prominent role in this. This is not a Xenia problem.
Right.
This is a county problem. And we do happen to have a higher, I think, rate of homeless folks in our community just by virtue of the fact that we are the county seat, and a lot of the social services are located here. But this is a county issue, and we desperately need leadership and funding at the county level to help address the matter. To the point of being a county-wide issue, we have initiated an effort reaching out to leadership from other municipalities in the county. We preliminarily have a meeting scheduled, I think it's the 27th or 28th of this month, with some representatives from various municipalities around the county to talk about the issue in their communities, what are they doing, and to try to galvanize support among the municipalities to go back to the county and hopefully see some difference. As part of that process, Mr. Forsman, our city planner, has been in discussions with folks from Fairborn, and while I'm not even sure if you're aware, they have an association of churches there that have formed in an effort to try to address the issue there. They've seen an increase in Fairborn as well. An old hotel that they were using and buying very cheap overnight vouchers has since been closed and demolished, and so they've got a lot of folks on the street. So they have a very similar dynamic in terms of lack of shelter availability and the number of folks on the street. So I think we have an instant ally in Fairborn and an opportunity for the faith community among both Xenia and Fairborn to maybe come together and try to share resources and ideas. So again, we're looking at several inroads to try to partner with others. I again echo that we need to go back through the county. So there are some other activities going on, but again, I want to let you know that if you're interested in the conversation on funding, allow us a week or two here to look at those ideas, and we can certainly bring some ideas back to your next meeting as part of that budget discussion.
Thank you very much. If one quick question for you, if I'm doing the math here, phase one is $22.15 a month. Is the second phase an additional
It's an addition.
$29.12?
That's correct.
It's not just a total of
No, that's
$29.12?
correct. It's addition.
It is
Right.
additional,
Yep.
okay,
Yep.
okay. All right. So the first proposal is about $73 a day
Right.
to fund this, so, all right.
Total
If,
comes out to 26,580 for the year.
26,580, okay. And as the city manager said, there are some ways that I think we could creatively help fund part of this, if not the majority of that. But again, I think my opinion is we need to advance the county.
Sure, absolutely,
in
yeah.
this,
And we would welcome doing that in tandem with the city.
So I guess my question to you, unless someone wants to move forward tonight, are you okay with us?
Oh, absolutely.
Meeting and
Yeah.
coming back at the next meeting on
Right,
this?
so
Okay.
just know that we're pressing on with
Okay.
the 7 to 7, and that's our baseline for an entire year, that's our
Got it.
budget. We've got a good staff in place and, set up criteria, and we're partnering with the other, organizations in the city, but probably we will not pursue through our private giving the additional, would pursue grants or pursue from some of the municipalities this year. But it's for us, it's a stretch to get that, and that's where our goal is, to do that within our current support base. Right.
All right, very good. Thank you very much. Okay. At this next item on our agenda is opportunity for audience comments. At this time, I would invite anyone who would like to come to the floor. Please give us your name and address for the record. Limit your comments 2 to 3 minutes. This is audience comments portion. Anyone? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to old business. Our first item is Resolution 2019-NN, which is an appreciation for outgoing Councilman Michael D. Engel in recognition of his valuable service to the city of Xenia. This was originally introduced by President Wallace.
Vice President.
Vice President Wallace, thank you.
And now move the passage.
Okay, we have a motion to accept, move for passage. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Councilman Scrivens. Any comments, suggestions, corrections? Would like to again thank former President Michael Engel for his 10 to 11 years of service. I got to serve with him for 9 of those years. His level of knowledge is just invaluable at the times that our city has needed his leadership. And not only would like to thank Mike, but his family for the sacrifice of their time. As you can see, Mike chaired many committees, gave up a lot of meeting time with city manager and council members, and was always available if you had a question. And again, if he's watching tonight, thank you so much for that. At this time, I'd ask for a roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye. Thank you
Motion
very
carried.
much. Our next resolution is 2019-00, which is an appreciation for outgoing Councilman Dale Louderback in recognition of his valuable service to the city of Xenia, and this was introduced by Mayor Mays.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for passage.
We have a move for passage by the mayor. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
I think Vice President Wallace just won that by a nose. Any comments, questions on this resolution? See no other comments. Again, I would also like to thank Councilman Louderback. 12 years of service. It's a long time, but it goes quick. And I know that he spent a lot of hours participating with the city and his service. He had a passion for the city and always meant well for the citizens in hand. As you can see, I believe Councilman Louderback chaired Miami Valley Regional Planning for close to 10 years. And that's a lot of meetings, not in Xenia, but on the road. So if he's watching tonight, thank you, Dale, for your service. And if there's no other comments, I would ask for roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye. Thank
Motion
you.
carried.
Next on the agenda is public hearings. We have none on the agenda for tonight, so we'll move on to new business. Our first new business is an administration motion, which is the reappointing of volunteers to Civil Service Commission and the Traffic Commission. And if you're prepared, Councilman Dean, I can turn that over to you. if
Yeah,
you'd
that's
like.
fine. Yeah, I was just going to make the appointment to Mrs. Joanne Garcia to the Traffic Commission with the term of expiration of January 8th, 2024. Make that recommendation, I should say.
All right, thank you very much. So we have actually 2 appointments. The first we'll go ahead and introduce is for Ms. Joanne Garcia to Traffic Commission, and that is introduced by Councilman Dean. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a second by Vice President Wallace. Any comments, questions on this appointment? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays.
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye, thank you very much. Welcome to Traffic Commission, Ms. Garcia. Our next item is a appointment to Civil Service Commission. I will go ahead and make that introduction for Mrs. Marie Newcomer to Civil Service Commission. Her term will expire December 31st, 2024. Do I have a second?
Second.
Do we have any comments or questions on that? Seeing none, roll call on the appointment of Ms. Newcomer.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye, thank
Motion
you.
carried.
Mr. President,
Yes, sir.
if I could, I didn't get a comment. It just seemed to me that people are getting confirmed to public positions, they should at least be here. That's just my take on that.
All right, thank you very much. So noted by Councilman Scrivens. Requests, if you're being appointed, it would be nice to come to the council meeting possibly and introduce yourself. Of course, that is not a requirement by the city, but it certainly, they have to send a letter of interest, but we can certainly note that in the minutes. Thank you. And that opinion is certainly noted.
They're already serving. They're being.
Didn't say that.
Oh, very good. This is reappointments. Thank you very much. Our next item is an administration motion, which is approving of the schedule of bills in the amount of $886,260.61. Mr. Finance Director.
Yeah, just note that there are two significant expenditures on this schedule of bills, one for street improvements and the other for the painting of the Spring Hill water tower that are the majority of the bills this meeting.
Thank you very much. Do we have a motion to accept the schedule of bills?
So moved, Mr. President.
Have a motion by Vice President Wallace, and do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Councilman Dean. Any comments, questions regarding our schedule of bills for tonight?
How long ago was that water tower painted, if you don't mind me asking?
I actually don't know the actual timing of when they finished it up, but yeah, it was, well,
Last month.
I would assume they just finished here in the last month or two, but I think they started in the spring.
Okay.
Yeah, they're also not paid until a subsequent inspection to be able to release the performance bond.
There were two deadlines on that, October and December, so they would have just finished.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Seeing none, roll call to approve the bills, please.
Vice President Wallace,
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens,
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean,
Aye.
Councilman Branham,
Aye.
Councilman Dean,
Aye.
Mayor Mays,
Aye.
President Smith.
Aye.
Motion carried.
Thank you very much. Next on our agenda is appointed officials' reports and council comments. First up is our city manager.
Thank you, sir. Just a couple of items this evening. First, I wanted to congratulate our 3 new council members. Welcome to the group, and our pleasure, and we look forward to serving you and the rest of council in the coming years. And congratulations to Mr. Smith and Dr. Wallace for your leadership roles. And just might add that we will need some time, Mr. President, to work out some administrative things to make sure in your role that we're ready to go with that. So congratulations again, and thank you for joining us. We want to remind folks in the community that January 14th will be the official announcement for the Small Business Revolution. Of course, Xenia is one of 10 semifinalists nationally, vying for an opportunity to be a finalist. This is an opportunity working with the Deluxe Corporation. They have a reality show. If you've not heard by now, you're living under a rock locally, but we would qualify for assistance under this opportunity to be able to have a crew come in and work with local businesses and make a cash investment in those businesses in our community and really profile our community and the importance of small businesses locally. So again, there'll be an announcement event that's being hosted at Coffee Hub next door here to the City Administration Building. The announcement's officially coming at 8 a.m. on the 14th, so at that time, folks will be gathering at the Coffee Hub hopefully in anticipation of celebrating making the cut for the finalists, and if not just celebrating what this opportunity has done in the community. I think without question there's been an infusion of pride in the community, and we're really very excited, very proud of the folks in the community for supporting this and just being very, shall I say, even boastful of our community and all the positive virtues here. So if council members are available to pop in on that, we encourage you to do so.
Is that being publicized, the 8 a.m. event?
Yes. Obviously, they have limited capacity, and they
Sure.
have some guests that are coming in. The announcement is being made in a live broadcast online.
At 8 a.m.?
Yep, at
Okay,
8 a.m.
that's-
So
I didn't
Small Business
realize that.
Revolution is the key there. As always, or at least the last month or two here, we encourage folks to continue to promote hashtag MyXenia on anything positive you see happening here locally. All that carries forward as part of this competition and helps to promote our community and position us. So we also wanted to
Before you leave that, Mr.
Yeah.
City Manager, are you suggesting those of us that come on the morning of the 14th wear our My Xenia t-shirts?
absolutely, sure. Yep. yeah, win or lose for this next phase, we'll be proud of what we've accomplished thus far to this point. So by all means, please dress accordingly.
Gotcha.
I did want to just briefly mention, we did have a large water main break here within the last meeting cycle. Very proud of our staff for responding to that. The main break actually occurred on a large main that is a private main and a somewhat obscure location. And so there was an extended period as we mobilized all of the city resources to be able to find that. And we were able to find that and isolate it, shut that valve off before our water supply was in a critical situation and we had to take any type of boil order. So I just want to acknowledge our staff for the good work and let folks know that when these type of events occur, and they occur in every community from time to time, that you should look at Xenia's city social media, our website, Dayton area media as well for information on that. We'll continue to provide updated information on all those platforms. If we ever do need to issue a boil order, that information will be broadcast over all those platforms. So this particular instance, we were able to take care of the problem before that, and so again, we're very proud of our staff for stepping up. I know the assistant city manager was here about 3 o'clock in the morning as they began that, and we mobilized our EOC about 5 o'clock in the morning. So, so we appreciate their efforts. I think that's all I have this evening.
Thank you very much. Next is Finance Director.
Thank you, Council President. Just want to let the public know that we have posted for 2019 all of our city expenditures to the Ohio checkbook. We also post all of our scheduled bills on our website following each meeting. And so if you have interest in how the city is spending monies, you can certainly check out either our website or the Ohio checkbook, and all that's there available for them to view. And that's all I have this evening.
All right, thank you very much. Next up, Madam Law Director.
I have nothing this evening unless you have anything for me.
Does anyone have anything for the Law Director tonight? All
I-
right. Yes, sir.
Have we gotten a report back yet, or did I overlook it, about the prosecutor who's going to be replacing Judge?
We did hire a full-time prosecutor, David Green, from the county. Actually, he had worked at the county prosecutor's office. So he knew most of the local players. The court right now, the last week and a half is just trying to find that groove. We had a lot of cases that hadn't been entered on the docket, so we're trying to get caught up on those things. But Mr. Green came David Morrison, I'm calling him David Green. He came very highly recommended by our own detectives, from other law enforcement agencies. I was able to speak with Judge Lewis this morning, who informed me he was doing a great job. So we're moving forward. I think it's going very well.
I think it's worth pointing out also that we've extended an invitation to Judge Lewis to have his new clerk of courts continue in the tradition we started under the last administration. And so our new clerk of courts, Stephen Pearson, is joining us at our Wednesday staff meetings. So we're very excited to be able to maintain that continuity in terms of administrative cooperation between the court and the city. So.
All right, thank you very much. Certainly to be expected, a new judge, new prosecutor, certainly a learning curve there, so hang in there. Thank you very much. Our next is Mayor.
Thank you, sir. It's been a little bit of a quieter week with the New Year's week as far as the schedule goes, but the one big thing I wanted to mention is that I was able to attend the change of command for the 445th and had an opportunity to personally welcome Colonel Ray Smith, who is the new commander at the 445th. Had a chance to meet his wife and engage with her just a little bit about the community and how we would love to continue to support them, and thankful for the folks who are here in Xenia that are a part of the reserves there. So that was the big event for me, and of course, thank you and welcome to the new council members. We're very excited to have you and to your re-election, so congratulations.
Thank you very much. Next for council comments, let's go with our newly elected Rebecca Dean.
I don't have any.
Nothing for tonight? Okay, thank you very much. And I'll go back to this side of the table and welcome Councilman Moreno. Anything you'd like to add?
I would first like to thank all my family and friends for showing up tonight in support, and of course, the Xenia community. I would also like to encourage everybody, of course, today was Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. It's not every day we should support our law enforcement, not just today. So I want to thank our police officers, and I would also like to, wish Officer Roop a congratulations on his retirement as well. So, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, we're going to go back to this side of the table and opportunity for returning Councilman Thomas Gribbins. Thank you.
Thank you, President Smith, and good evening, everyone in the city of Xenia and those who are here this evening. Once again, I've gotten the honor, and it's a sacred trust, to sit in this chair and to represent all the people of the city of Xenia. I will not let you down. Mr. President, I also want to say that I met Officer Root back in Y2K, and I met him back then, and for 20-some years, he's been exemplary. You just can't say enough good things about good people, and he was one of them. All of the fellows at the park say when he made his rounds through the park, you know, he treated them like individuals and asked them to conform and comply, and they did just based on his personality. So Officer Root, we hate to lose him in one capacity, but we know we're going to inherit him again in another one. So God bless you, Officer Root, and thank you for your service. Mr. City Manager, I've noticed that downtown at night is not well lit, especially in front of this building and in this next block. There's a couple of our old lights that the bulbs are out. I don't know who rides herd on that, but when we meet down here at night, you know, it's the blind leading the blind. So I've talked to DPNL, and they said that it's our job to put a light up across the street here. We already have a pole, and there's current there, so all we gotta do is install a fixture. So I'd like to see some light on this corner where we have the Xenia City Administration Building.
I can talk to you offline, and we've had that conversation with our engineering department. A little more complicated than we thought that it was gonna be. I sort of had the same assumption that it would be
Possibly,
appropriate to
but
six something.
there's
So
a glitch.
Yeah, we've had a preliminary conversation.
Good.
And again, for the council members and for anyone in the public, if you do observe street lights that are not maintaining their current consistently, that are out for some reason, you can contact the city manager's office or the public service department, and each light has actually a number on the pole, so if you can get that number, that's very helpful to us. But if not, just giving us the general address is helpful as well. And I should also report, you know, in addition to a few of the lights downtown, there's a lot of trash downtown right now. And so I had a conversation with public
That was
service.
my next point of order.
Yep. I've had a conversation with public service earlier today, and we're gonna send a crew out here the next week or so, just basic litter control. We encourage citizens to do that, but again, right now, there's a lot of trash downtown, so we're gonna pick it up.
Right, and, you know, with the last wind that passed through, it just gets strewn.
Yeah.
And, you know, should be somebody out early in the morning or late at night picking up trash. I mean, there's no sense for trash to fester. That's just ridiculous. And speaking of festering, we got leaves in front of the city building that have been here now since September. And they need to be cleaned up around the curb, around the building. I mean, this is our city building. Can't have the place looking like that. I'm just not gonna have it.
A lot of those are from the Christmas tree.
Yeah,
With the winds, they collect
I'm
behind
just
the
saying,
Christmas tree.
we have to clean up after ourselves. Now, we've abandoned an alley that runs parallel to Stelton Road, and thank God we did that, but there's still a trash problem in that alley leading from the Southwest Market up to the apartment building up there. I mean, it's just constantly a trash bin. I don't know what we can do, but we need to do something. My pitch on sanitation. I'm told that we're going to develop rules for our council, and that's right and proper. Council should police and administer itself. So I think in the near future, we will develop rules of what conduct or whatever we need to do to develop our own rules, just similar to all other organizations. Want to thank all of the audience that was here tonight. We had overflow capacity, which is good. Citizens interested in what goes on in their local government. I would like to propose that during each quarter that we meet with the township, the county, the schools, and even the courts. We need to coordinate what we're doing. Our algebra could be improved by a function of 3 or 4 if we get everybody on the team here. I'd like to know who our county officials are and meet with them and articulate with them. Same way with our township officials. I mean, we're in bed with these people, quote unquote. So we should definitely have a good working relationship with them. and needless to say, the schools. Now, when we paint our water towers, Xenia is the home of the Buccaneers. That has to be stated at some point. You go to West Carrollton, Springboro, home of the, I mean, this is who we are. So if we don't toot our own horn, the band will not play. So if we're proud of our schools, we're proud of our students that represent us in athletic competition, and we're proud of our city. It's the city of hospitality, the home of the Buccaneers, and we should toot that horn. And with that, Mr. President, I yield back. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scrivens. Next is Councilman Dean.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have anything to add.
All right, thank you very much. All right, Mr. Vice President.
Thank you, Mr. President. First, I guess, would like to thank the citizens of Xenia for re-electing me to a second four-year term. I appreciate being, I think I was the highest vote getter. That was a real honor as far as I'm concerned. I'd also like to thank my colleagues tonight for re-electing me to vice presidency of the council. And I hope to not let you down and serve you well. I don't have much else to add, except I do want to lift up the Martin Luther King service this month. Is on January 20th. It'll be at the AHOP, and everybody constantly asks me what AHOP stands for, and I said, all I've seen is a house of prayer, and certainly the Lord's house is always a house of prayer. The speaker this month, this year, will be Reverend Dr. John Freeman, who is pastor of United AME Church, as well as chaplain at Wilberforce University, and we're looking forward to his choir being there, and the AHOP praise team will be participating in that service, and it's at 7:00 p.m. on January 20th, and we would appreciate everybody being there. The mayor is on to do a welcome, and she is not going to be able to do that.
That's all we're saying about that.
But she is.
In case my kids see this, they don't know anything.
Hallelujah. But she is going to
ruin
provide us a
surprises.
proclamation or something, so we're
Birthday
going
surprises going down the drain.
to. Well,
I won't be there, I'm sorry. End of story.
end of story. But we appreciate the work she's done in preparing for that service. And we're looking forward to another good year, another good service, King service. That's all I have for tonight.
All right, thank you, Vice President Wallace. Thank you for your continuing service as Vice President, as well as the rest of you up here sitting tonight. Also, as 2019 is closed, I would like to also thank our appointed officials for the service you've done in 2019 and looking forward to 2020, as well as the rest of our city staff. I did prepare just a small statement. As our council, we are all concerned of the growth of our city and its success. And we know as council members that we have to contain expenses, but also grow revenue at the same time. And we're going to work on doing that as a council, and we're going to work on attracting some quality and small businesses in Xenia. That has always been, economic growth has always been a priority of this council and should remain so. We need to work on a housing market to create more homes and more property owners in our community. We know we have financial hurdles in our city, and we have some challenges with our infrastructure, of course, being our streets, our sanitations, our catch basins. And we know we have work to do on these issues while improving and maintaining our safety services, which comprises about 90% of our city budget. One thing we're working on as a council is to stop the abuse of those that are taxing our EMS department. And we're working on slowing down the call volume, but still reacting quickly and efficiently to those who are seriously ill and in danger, whether they be in a home or in a nursing facility, and that will continue to happen. However, we are, as a council, will be working on that. We understand as a city we need to retain quality police officers, and as we saw the retirement of Officer Root, we'd like to thank him for his service. But we also want to work on continued support with our community partners like Xenia Community Schools. We have the arrival this year of our Greene County Career Center and their 2020 fall launch into the upcoming school year as being a partner in our city, and we're looking forward to that. One thing as a council I would like us to consider in budgetary is working with our city manager to consider the addition of a K-9 officer in addition to our fleet, not only for looking for drugs, but also in missing person cases. So I think that's an argument that we need to sit down and look at. As a council, we're going to continue to be transparent in our communication to our citizens through appropriate media outlets. But I would ask that our citizens also, if you have a question, pick up the phone. Be correct when you share information on social media. And when you're on social media, I would like to challenge you to ask yourself these questions. If you're posting something on social media, first of all, make sure it's accurate. Second of all, is it really necessary? And third, is it kind? Treat others like your brother and sisters. We're a family in Xenia, and we can continue to make Xenia the city of hospitality, but we need to look out for our neighbors. Attacking people on social media serves no purpose. As a neighbor in our community, we need to look at welcoming additional resources and revenue into our city. When we have a neighbor east of us called Central State University, we have 2 graduates of Central State that sit on our council, and I would like to challenge this council to work on a way to welcome Central State into our town and our tax base. Those students and employees are working in our town and they're spending money here, and we owe them that opportunity to be part of our community. And for those of you that are watching tonight, we would like to thank you for your interest in our community, for your encouragement, and for your confidence. I would like to thank the council tonight for their vote, and I will work hard as a president to be the type of person that will answer your question at any time. I also like to ask for your prayers and your support while we work on effective governance in 2020 and beyond. We need to work as a council on consensus building and identify our city weaknesses and opportunities and take them to task and actually work through problems and not just talk about problems. Tonight, we were presented with a problem of homelessness, which is probably our #1 problem right now in our city. We need to show kindness and compassion while still establishing a safe environment for our citizens and our brothers and sisters who are down on their luck, who need compassion and support. We need to help those who want to help themselves, and those who are willing to work on steps to enhance their lives. And we need to simply show those that have come to our community, if you're here to cause trouble, and if you cannot make it in a shelter, you are not welcome in our community, and we will find an exit out of our city of Xenia and our county. So we need to be diligent in our preparedness for working on legislation to deal with the loitering problem. So Councilman Urschel, thank you tonight for your presentation. Our second and probably other large issue is our streets and infrastructure. And as a council, we understand that. So those that are watching, we are working on ways to increase our revenue, to pay for more paving and road improvements. And as a council, we have an open mind to find ways to finance these improvements. And we will stop accepting the status quo. As a council, we need to participate in discussions at every meeting, use astute judgment, and work sessions to encourage our citizens to get back and re-engage into our council and our community. We have a new council and a young council, and I would remind everyone that our goal is to set policy. Our goal is to have strong financial oversight and create obtainable goals that will improve the quality of life for our citizens, and that's why all of us are sitting here today. So again, I would ask the council, if you could, in the next week, please send me your interest in what commissions you would like to serve for appointments, and shoot me an email if you have a question on the commission or its duties or responsibilities. Certainly ask myself or the clerk, and she can certainly let you know what we have. So with that being said tonight, again, thank you for those that are here and watching. Thank you for the council for your support. And I would ask for adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move we adjourn.
I have a motion by Vice President Wallace to adjourn, and do we have a second? Second by Councilman Scrivens. Roll call, please.
Vice President Wallace?
Aye.
Councilman Scrivens?
Aye.
Councilwoman Dean?
Aye.
Councilman Branham?
Aye.
Councilman Dean?
Aye.
Mayor Mays?
Aye.
President Smith?
Aye. Thank you very
Motion
much.
Congratulations.
Thanks. You too.
Go Beavs.
Oh, yeah.